This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Well, we had a late breaking change of events on the show. Judy is not feeling well. So she was going to try and power through it, but I'm sure you guys can imagine that'd be wildly awkward and discomforting. So she's going to bow out, but I wanted to continue on with the show anyway. So we'll jump right into it. I got to be honest, it feels very strange not having my co-partner here. Good morning, Michelle. So anyway, I will start out with gratitude, and there's going to be a slight change in the dynamic of the show this morning because I have something very important I want to discuss. So I have gratitude for my daughter being alive. So yeah, that's what's going on. Let me jump back. Sorry, it's very awkward to try to have this discussion. Thanks, Lee. Judy, she'll be okay. She's having some discomfort with something. But so the night before last, I got a call from my daughter. She's 30 years old. Good morning, Marcus. I don't want to. I tried to call her to see if it was okay if I use her name, and I have not got a response. So I don't think it'd be a big deal, but I don't want to just throw someone's name out there without them giving permission. So let's give some history about her. She's 30 years old. Her mom and I made a very conscious decision to have a child when I was in the Army. But anyway, good morning, Grant. So I'm not going to get into the whole backstory of it. Let's just get to the meat and potatoes. For the greater part of her adult life, she's been really struggling with addiction. She's been addicted and or using in some form or fashion a lot of the hard drugs. So for the last, in her words, the last 6 years, she's been a pretty heavy fentanyl user, which well, I'm sure we all know that once you head down the fentanyl route, it's really difficult to come back from. And that stemmed from regular heroin use. So before that, she was, I think, going back and forth between methamphetamine and heroin, which is a pretty common path for users to dabble in. Anyway, I think am I still on? Michelle, am I here? Marcus says I'm off air. I think everything's okay, Marcus. Oh, okay. Lee can hear me. Marcus, man, you got to figure out your technology. Okay, so anyway, thanks, Grant. She was a heavy drug user for many years, and I'll be very transparent about this. As I would stay in touch with her mother throughout the years, I would check in every, 4 to 6 months to see if she had heard anything, to see how she was doing, to see if there was any news. Thanks, Michelle. And I would just do check-ins like that. And there was times when her mom wouldn't hear for her for half a year or more, and then she would hear from her and things would not be going well. So I had this discussion I told Michelle about this a couple times when we would discuss her, and I told Judy this a few months ago that how it came up was, how do I feel about her, my daughter? And the only thing that I've really developed over the last couple years was that I had slowly been mourning her, if you will. I never really got to have an adult relationship with her, which has been my daily heartbreak for decades. So knowing that the lifestyle that she was living and the drug use that she was involved with, I didn't really understand how I was supposed to keep hope alive. That may sound very selfish, and I think it probably is, but I think many of us can attest to the fact that it's difficult to carry on a thought or a relationship of something that doesn't really exist. So I don't want to really get into I guess I should. She was living in Southern California in the LA area. And the last I heard, about a year ago, she was living in the armpit of Skid Row, which, if you're not familiar with the Southern California homeless population, that's sort of the epitome of it. That's like Thunderdome of homelessness and wild debauchery and drug use and abuse. It's a horrible existence to be in. And her lifestyle was just spiraling into a completely different depth. But I was only getting micro bits of information of what was going on. So I had this sort of broad brush picture of her health and her life. And that's really it. So I don't know. It's now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, it feels cold and insincere and very selfish, I think, to just forget about someone and then mourn them when we don't really know what their situation is. But I guess, well, we all cope in our own different ways. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But let's fast forward to a couple nights ago. Judy and I were laying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and I got a phone call, and it was her. And she sounded really, really good. She sounded better than she has in the last couple years. Okay, let me back up. So there's times when I would get a text from her or a call from her, and it would just be a fleeting 1.5, 2 minute conversation. That was maybe on average once every 2 years for the last 10 years. So can you imagine, you get this brief conversation, and then I'm sitting there flabbergasted, and my emotions would always become fantastical and fantasy driven about, oh man, I bet this is it. I bet she's better. I bet she hit rock bottom, and we're going to be able to reconnect and have a relationship. But then it would always be I got the text, I got a phone call, and then I would never hear from her again. I would text folks in that lifestyle. She could never hang on to a phone long enough. It was always getting stolen or lost or something. So there was just never a reliable phone number for me to get a hold of her. It would always be about a week later, I would text her, and it'd be someone else saying, you have the wrong number or whatever. So fast forward to the conversation the other night. It was really nice. She said that she's been sober, completely sober, and obviously off of fentanyl for a little bit over 60 days, which is fantastic. But there's always the but. So she's staying with her mom and her stepdad, which they're really, really good people, real loving individuals that have been extremely patient with her for many years. Really bailed her out of a couple tough jams. So she's staying there, but she asked me within the span of 2 minutes of the conversation if there was any interest in me having her come out here to visit or stay. And I sidestepped that conversation because I sidestepped the conversation with this answer. And the answer was, I'm very, very proud and very impressed and extremely hopeful for you, but 60 days is a really, really sensitive spot to be in when you're coming out of this stuff. So I just kind of left it at that, because she's having a difficult time where she lives. She's having a difficult time with her situation with her mom and whatever. They live in a very isolated area on the outskirts of LA. And so she's kind of out in the boonies, and it's tough for her to not be around that lifestyle, which I think is fantastic. I think it's very healthy that she's a little bit isolated. But I'm very worried now, because when I asked her what her next step was, she doesn't really have a path. And I think the majority of us know, especially with our addictions and our alcoholism, that 60 days in is a very sensitive space to be. That's when I had my unhinging, if you will. That's when my demons really started to surface, and that's when my mental health breaks started to become really prevalent. That's when I needed help. I got sober, and right about 60 days in, I needed help a lot. And here I am 2.5 years later, still doing a tremendous amount of daily work on myself to make sure that I'm giving the care and feeding to my mental health and my sobriety. So it was on speakerphone, and Judy and I both sort of said at the same time, you got to go to NA or Al-Anon or AA or something and start to talk, get a support system under your belt. And she didn't appear to even want to entertain that. So yeah, that's where we're at. Throughout all these years of being on this side of it, I didn't understand how to try and even help her, because this sounds like a real cop-out excuse, but she is my daughter, and I know that she's not going to be able to put herself into a position to get help until she wanted to get clean. She had for the sake of her privacy, I'm not going to get into the details, but she had an extremely violent rock bottom event that sounds like thrust her into this position. So it's unfortunate, but here we are. Yeah, Jacob, 2 years sober and still have no interest in meetings. Never been to one. I hear you. It's not for everybody. But for her being so volatile and so... She's got real bad ADHD as well. So when I'm talking to her, I just want to reach out desperately and tell her to calm the fuck down, relax, take a breath. And yeah, thanks, Lee. Lee says, I think you did fine with not welcoming her to come visit. Thanks, Lee. I that's nice to hear. And my rationale was that just having her come out here, I think, might have exacerbated the whole situation, because I'm going to be like a bloodhound and very doubtful and judgmental, just to be transparent. And I'd be like a hawk constantly watching her. It would be, if she thinks she's having a tough time with her mom, it would be, I think, a rude awakening. I think this would not be the way to start to build a relationship, if you will. So, all that said, I texted her the other day. She's doing well. She said she's going to be looking for a sober Christian living environment of some sort, and then taking it from there. But I guess I would look to you all for some wise words of wisdom or encouragement and hope, and let me know what I'm supposed to do at this stage. As it stands now, I guess I'm just sitting back and quietly observing and hoping for the best. So thank you, Michelle. Oh, snap. Judy joined the chat. Yeah. It's a real tough situation. Michelle and Judy have seen me struggling with this for years, and it's definitely a roller coaster. But if I could sit her down, right? Oh, hold on, I gotta talk about my fantasy. I've told this to Judy before. I've had this. It popped into my head a decade ago or more, and that was, I just have this picture of my daughter and I sitting on my front porch, watching the sun come up and drinking a cup of coffee and just talking about nothing. It makes me feel good. I think that's the least grandiose fantasy I've ever had, but I think that'll just show it's my measure of success for her and for me. The brief period that she knew me, she was 20 years old. She came out to the Midwest and visited, and Judy and I were in the midst of our addiction as well. So she saw me drinking a lot, and I wasn't really present there as well. So I gave a really bad impression. And again, I likely gave the impression that I got from my mom and my dad and everyone in our family about, well, there's the Lund to gene pool getting fucking hammered all the time, and then trying to fumble through being a productive person in society. I never gave her really a reason to respect me yet anyway, because she never really knew me. So we'll see. So Lee says, does she know about your lifestyle up to 2 years ago? Does she know you are sober now? Yeah, sorry, Lee, I just answered that before reading your question. Yeah, she, about a year ago, I had one of those quick 45-second conversations, and I had told her that I was sober, and she said that that was very inspirational. And the other night when I was talking to her, she said that the fact that Judy and I have been sober for this amount of time really helped her reevaluate her situation. So she said it helped a little bit, which made me feel good. About a year ago, I had sent her mom a link to this podcast and asked that if the opportunity ever came up, maybe she could share it with my daughter. Shit, I think I just said her name. Oh well. I've mentioned her name before, but yeah, so she shared the link to this channel with her, and she said that she watched a couple videos and found it to be pretty inspirational. Our format's nothing mind-boggling, but just for the simple fact that she knows that I've been working on changing myself and breaking this whole cycle has been beneficial for her. So Lee says, I'm also seeing this form of a daughter of an alcoholic father. It makes sense to me that she could be inspired by your honesty now and not think you were being hypocritical. Thank you, Lee. Yeah. I was hypocritical in the past, for sure. Judy and I both were, because we'd have conversations about how fucked up she was while Judy and I were getting drunk, and then judging her life. Granted, I was going to say it's different. It was worse because it's a different drug, something in our mind's eye that we see to be much more detrimental. But who the fuck are we to judge what's worse or what's better or what's healthier? That's a good point, Lee. That's a strange level of hypocrisy. While I'm sitting there chugging a box of wine and a case of beer, I'm sitting there going, well, at least we're not doing hard drugs. Yeah, it's not different. So, okay, I think I'm going to continue on. So that's it. We're gonna get into the rest of this, and I will try to do a reaction on my own to this video, but maybe it'll spark a little bit of conversation, and if not, we'll end up wrapping it up. But this is a video that I came across, and it's titled "We Learned This Too Late." This doctor, she is 103 years old, and she's wildly inspirational with the stuff she has to discuss. So let's take a look.
All healing comes from inside ourselves. We have the physician on the outside and the physician on the inside, and all healing is based on love. We really don't understand our own power. See, I have this kind of idea that when God created this earth, whoever God is to whoever you are, created the earth, and it was beautiful and everything was in place and the way it should be. But then he created the human being, and he said to us, now you are the only creatures that have the right to choose and have free will. So therefore, I give you dominion over the earth. And we decided that what he meant by dominion was dominance. And so we've taken over the earth and done what we darn well choose with it. And look where we are. So it's that reality, the inner part of us, we're all reaching for our true humanity. And that true humanity understands that we are the ones who do the healing. See, I've come up with what I call 5 L's. The first one is life and love. Without life, there's nothing, you know. You can be a seed in the Great Pyramid for 5,000 years and nothing happens until love, which is light and water and so on, softens the shell and the seed opens up and it grows. Life and love are one unit. They work together. It's like a pregnancy. When a mother is pregnant, she and that baby are one unit. What she eats, the baby eats. What she thinks, the baby thinks. It's a constant process. But that aspect of reality that is that baby that is being nurtured and grown within the womb doesn't really find its own identity until it takes its first breath. So it's this reality that life and love are one unit. As we work with each other that way, we can really understand aspects of ourselves, but aspects of the world around us and aspects of other people too. The first L was life and love. So those two came together and I understood those. But the third one was laughter. Laughter without love is cruel. It's mean. It takes families apart. It has caused wars, you know. Laughter can be cruel, but laughter with love is joy and happiness. The fourth L is labor. Labor without love is drudgery. You just gotta go to work. You just gotta do this. But labor with love is bliss. It's why you singers sing, why painters paint. It's why I do what I do. It's why you do what you do. It's what makes our hearts sing. It's that inner aspect of our being that comes alive. And we'll work 5 times as hard as we were when we were dragging ourselves along with the drudgery thing. And the 5th one is listening. Listening without love is empty sound. It just doesn't make any sense. You don't understand. But listening with love is understanding. So these 5 L's have been very helpful for me in structuring and understanding the philosophy and the life that I'm working with.
And you've been a teacher, you've been a doctor, but you've been writing books, and you've just put out a new book, The Well-Lived Life, where you share 6 secrets. What do you hope people learn from that book?
I hope they really understand love being the teacher and love being the essence of healing. My spirit needs to bear witness with thy spirit. We need to let the energy of our being move and help, and as we help others, we help ourselves. It's that life flow that is so essential. Spend time looking for what I call the light. You know, I kind of see myself walking along with a flashlight in the dark on my path, and it's dark, and I can just go as far as my flashlight takes me. But as I'm walking along, sometimes on the side of the path, there's a light that is not very bright. It's just kind of shimmering. If I shine my light over there, all of a sudden that light becomes great.
I love that. Babe, I see that you put, so basic but so profound. I got to start, I'm going to carry that one around, especially for today. Cruising through life with your flashlight, but it can only shine so far. But once in a while, you shine it off the path and you see something else. That's so prophetic about my consciousness, at least. Take a minute to look around.
In other words, as we reach out for each other, just with whatever we have, whatever the opportunity is, and you use it and you work forward with it, you're helping people in ways that you know not.
I understand that you had a chance to meet one of history's greatest teachers. You met Gandhi at one point. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I was 10 years old. We were leaving India. We were in the train and leaving Roorkee to go to Bombay. And I was really sad because I didn't want to leave India. And I knew I had to. And so I'm sitting in the train with my face plastered against the window, really looking out. In India, there are always crowds of people. Well, there were crowds of people here, but there was a man walking in front of this crowd, and he had on a dhoti and a staff, and I recognized him as Gandhi, and he was just walking along, and when it came into my sight, and he reached down, a little girl was handing him a flower. He took the flower, and as he looked up, he looked straight into my eyes, and I looked into his. And something happened. I can't explain to you what happened. I can't explain to anybody. I can't even explain it to myself. But I felt a connection of love that was really, really important to me. That was just a moment. I watched him go on with the Salt March that he was doing and so on. 30 years later, my parents were working with Gandhi as India was torn apart with the partition. Hindus and Mohammedans killing each other. It was just awful. And my parents had their little medical jeep, and they took it around to camps and did what they could. When Gandhi was speaking, my dad would get up on the platform with him, and they would talk together to the people. And Gandhi and my mother and father formed a friendship Gandhi gave my mother a cashmere blue shawl and my dad a Panipat blanket. It was a close enough relationship in the family that this was being done. So I feel that spark was started when I was 10 years old, and our family connection kept that going. It's recognizing when something like that happens and not shoving it under the carpet, because those are the things happen. I've looked at people sometimes and been able to feel that, and I don't even know who they are. I recognized Gandhi, but there are a lot of people who seem lost and so on. And if you can smile at them and speak to them and recognize them, people are waiting to be recognized. That's what Gandhi did when he looked at me and I looked at him. I recognized him and he recognized me. And that's still with me. This ability to really recognize each other as real people, living beings that are in the same world as we are, that love flows. And love has to keep on flowing or it dies.
What do you hope your legacy is?
That love is what really matters. When you get down to the basic center aspect of what healing is all about, it's about love and life.
Wow, that was awesome. What do you think, Judy? Yeah, I thought that was pretty spectacular. I know you did, love. I'm channeling my inner Judy. So, all joking aside, I thought that made me a little misty. That was a really good reminder that I needed to hear. I really like the part about how we need to listen with love. I think I get caught up sometimes in listening to someone's conversation or someone's talking to me, and sometimes it just becomes noise. And that's definitely not listening with love. Yeah, love flows and really matters. So there it is, y'all. That's our secret to happiness, is laugh, be happy, listen. I forgot the other L's, but yeah, Michelle, recognition and accomplishment are so important. Absolutely. And Marcus and Michelle and Lee and everybody else, thank you for the kind words reminding me not to be hard on myself. I'm not hard. Yeah, labor. Thanks, babe. Labor with love. I'm not hard on myself, but I am a fixer. So there's nothing worse for me than being forced to sit on the sidelines and not be able to help. So maybe I am helping her by being here now. So we'll see. I'll tell you what, when we have viable updates, we'll use this format and we'll let everyone know how everything's going. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up because this has been sort of emotionally taxing for me. So, all right. Next week, I think what we're going to do is on my YouTube shorts that I post daily. Subscribe if you want to get your daily dose of cringe-worthy inspiration from me. There's been just a ton of comments, almost 2,000. And by the way, our channel subscriber count is 2.2 thousand, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. So thank you everybody for the support. But Judy wants to. I'm gonna put all the comments together and we'll put it in a sort of a web format and we'll scroll through it because there's a ton of positive comments about stuff. I'm not going to go over the ton of the positive comments, but I want to talk about thanks, Laura. I want to talk about a lot of the, I guess you would consider them angry or disparaging comments that people leave, it's been very eye-opening for me to see those comments, because I used to be the person that would have those fears about sobriety and leave those comments and have those emotions about other people getting sober. So, I mean, all I'm doing is using this platform as my own mental health outlet and a diary of where I'm at and what I'm feeling. So I post those shorts out there that revolve around, if you know, alcohol is poison. There's not an ounce of alcohol that's healthy for you. Just things like that, facts about stuff. And it's interesting to see people come back and just rain hellfire down upon me and the other community for calling out the fact that drinking's not good for you. I never said that I wasn't there. I did it for 30 years, but I was that person. I saw it happen to a couple of friends. It was very profound for me. I knew a guy just a couple of years ago. He was pretty clear about it. He's like, I think it's time for me to get sober. And the instant he said that, I had a juvenile resentment for him. I know now that it wasn't a resentment for him. It was a fear. It was a fear, because Judy and I have talked about this many times. I didn't understand how to even start navigating my own mental health and how to even visualize becoming sober. So there's just this whole bundle of, oh, fuck, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah. And there's this, how dare you? You're not better than me. Things you never say out loud. But I was there. I used to dismiss people that wanted to get sober or change their lives. In the community that Judy and I used to be in the home brew community and the pub community, there's a couple guys that got sober, and we didn't like them anymore. It's so stupid. But then I ended up being on that side too, where people hear you get sober and that you want to get sober, and they just sort of drift off, and there's no more relationship. I get it. I understand. But anyway, we'll go through and we'll share the comments and we'll talk about them, because it's eye-opening and super interesting to see. So yeah, Lee says you can really tell which statements hit the mark, can't you? Absolutely. I read them, and my first glance, sometimes I get a little bit frustrated, but it's just a quick tick of frustration. Then I realize, oh, that was me. That is me. That's me incarnate right there. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to wrap it up. So thanks so much for the support. Thanks for tuning in. Judy's on the mend. She's getting better, just not feeling it today. And when you're in this position to need to talk about stuff, if you're not feeling well, it's not good. Okay. One other quick thing. When I was talking to my daughter about opiates and my concern with you guys know that I've told you this before, my entire family has passed away from alcohol and or opiate use and abuse. So I've always been very cognizant of that. I wanted to give a quick update on my shoulder surgery that I had on March 1st. Before I went into surgery, I had a really good discussion with my surgeon about pain management. And I was just super transparent and honest with him right off the cuff. I said, hey, I've got a family addiction. I've got a history with opiates and alcohol. I've been in recovery for 2.5 years myself. So let's have a discussion about this. And it was interesting to see the doctor's reaction. I don't think he gets that a lot. He says, well, you're going to need pain management because this surgery is extremely painful and you need to be able to recover comfortably with it. So we had a discussion about the medication and what we would use and monitor it very closely. So I had recommended tramadol, which is a really slow, time-released, milder opiate than Vicodin or oxycodone or hydrocodone or anything like that. And he said, that's not going to cut it. You're going to come crawling to me in a day asking for something stronger. So I said, okay. So anyway, long story short, he prescribed oxycodone, which is OxyContin. You guys know the whole history behind that, I'm sure. 5 milligram doses, 40 pills. So the second night after the nerve block wore off, it was about midnight, and I think I've got a pretty high pain threshold, but I was in excruciating pain. It's like the nerve block wore off, and it was like, hey, motherfucker, guess what? It was just like someone was pounding a nail into my shoulder nonstop, and I was laying there in bed. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. I'm having I need to get sleep. Sleep is important to me. So I got up, I went to the bathroom, and I took an oxycodone, and I laid down. And within 20 minutes, the pain started to really subside, and it felt good. But then I got to tell you, just in the spirit of transparency and honesty, the comfort and warmth that I started to feel from a mental perspective right then and there was a, no pun intended, sobering reminder that those demons of mine are always just fucking sitting on the front porch waiting for me to put the shotgun away. They're there. And I'm proud of myself for recognizing that. I woke up the next morning. I felt spiritually and mentally like shit. I felt like I had a mild hangover. And I realized right then, I entertained something with myself. So let me try and articulate this. I said to myself, I just came off of that oxycodone, and I have a mild depressive lethargy about me right now. I'm not in a lot of pain, but if I were to take another oxycodone right now, I would feel tremendously happy. I would feel so much better than I am in this position right now. All of the blues, the depressive lethargy would leave, and I would be a little bit high and happy. So I relayed a little bit of that to Judy. I don't think I went into that much detail, but I just said I can't take the pills. I just can't do it. So I powered through it. I took some Tylenol, and here I am 3 weeks later, and I'm doing very well. But it also fucking sucks to have the stark realization that is, man, it's a fucking crippling part of my genetic makeup that my brain really, it can really just sink into that when it's presented with it. So I guess that's part of our addiction recovery and alcoholism recovery, is that we always have to be cognizant of that stuff moving forward. I don't think it's an unhealthy spot to be in from a mental perspective. I think it's something we have to really pay attention to. There's a guy on this channel, on the chat here, that I know that went through the surgery, and he had a discussion with me about pain management too, and he's very cognizant of it. So anyway, give myself a pat on the back and check this out. Look at that range of motion. All right, y'all. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks so much for tuning in. Anyway, tune in next week, and we'll probably do a reaction discussion around a video, but we're gonna spend the majority of the time reading through some comments and having some reactions and discussions around the comments. And it's not to besmirch the people that are making the comments. It's just to see the side of that reality and the reception of society watching other people get sober. It's very pragmatic. Okay. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.